Hi everyone, Jedediah Thomas, the Mind Master here. Today I wanted to talk about emotions and what is their place in the mind. Be sure to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more content on the mind, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, traumas, limiting beliefs, motivation, and everything around that. So, in another video, I described kind of the model of the mind, and I want to really focus in on the emotional level in this video because it is not only a very powerful level, it's also a level that everyone on the planet is familiar with, and it is also the most studied by neuroscientists, and a lot of tests are done on that level. And I'll kind of talk about how that fits into the overall picture. So if you look at the scale here, you have, the emotional level second from the left, and what that is kind of conflicts of a lot of different things. So you have a mental level, right? You have any underlying beliefs, and then you have a biological component to it. You have like hormones, you have all of these different chemicals that release in your body. Diet can actually affect emotion, and there's also a neurological component to it. So basically, your central nervous system is what controls your emotions. It controls the release of those hormones. It controls how you receive inputs from the outside in your senses, how messages are relayed in your body with different chemicals. So there's like a lot of different things that are packed into that emotional level. Now, emotions, as we would know them, are basically a particular feeling associated with a specific thing. So if you think ice cream, you might think happy. If you think water, you might have different views of water. That could be happy as well, or it could be fear if you have thalassophobia or something like that. So basically, it's an association between a feeling and a specific thing is what we consider to be emotions, kind of on the day to day. And emotions are really important because they do serve a couple of functions in the body. One, it's one of your immediate triggers for your fight or flight response. So before you have conscious thought about what's happening, your emotions will trigger, and that will get you out of potentially dangerous situation, flood you with adrenaline so that you can handle different stresses, things like that. So it does play a very critical role in our life. It's something that we always reference when, how do you feel about this? What we feel about, different topics of our life. And so it's something that we're all familiar with. It's something that can get, out of control if you're not able to control your emotions. And it's just something that we come across all the time, and it's very integral into who we are as human beings. Now, the reason why it's kind of misconstrued by science, there's several reasons. So number one, they have an incorrect model of the mind. So they believe that our biology is our most fundamental level. And as I've said in another video, that's actually not the case. We do have, whether you want to call it spiritual or not, another component to us. You could call it the soul, you could call it whatever you want. That is kind of who we are. You could even say it's electromagnetic, but we exist below our emotions, right? And that would be the belief level. So when science tries to make improvements in your life, the only thing that they can really accurately track, or the only thing that they know to track, is how you respond emotionally to different events. Okay. And so that is the core of all of the problems of modern science and modern psychology when it comes to understanding the mind, is that emotion is the only, it is like the deepest level that they know about, and it's the deepest level that they know how to track. So you have all of these different types of therapy. You have pills, you have psychiatry, you have all of these different modalities that are trying to work on an emotional level, either mentally or physically or biologically or whatever, and they all converge on that emotional level. So, as an example, one of the modalities of modern science that deals with the emotional level is exposure therapy, right? So let's say you have a fear of spiders, right? Horrible phobia of spiders, and then like what exposure therapy will do is like put you in the same room, and then there's like a spider at the other end for however long, and then they'll move the spider closer over time, right, over a period of weeks, and then eventually it'll be right next to you, and you basically desensitize yourself to that spider being there, right? So over time your emotional response to the spider is getting less and less and less. Now, in theory, that would help. And the theory is based on the fact that they measure your emotional response at the beginning and it's very high, and they measure your emotional response at the end and it's lower, right? Because that's the only thing that they have to measure is that emotional level. What they don't look at is your fundamental worldview and your perspective of reality. That's the layer underneath that emotional level, which is what I deal with. And that's the belief level, right? So science can measure emotions, right? They can measure your heart rate goes down. They can measure your chemical releases, they go down. They can measure all of these things with MRIs and whatnot, and they're seeing all the electrical signals, and that is the emotional level because there is a biological component to it. But the issue is that that's not everything that we are, right? There is that belief level. So there's another very powerful modality that works on the emotional level, which is called tapping or EFT, emotional freedom technique. And yes, it does reduce emotions. It will lower your heart rate. It will, do all this stuff and get you taking action because your emotions are less, but it doesn't actually operate on that belief level, right? That more fundamental level. What it does is create an emotional bypass so that you no longer experience the emotions around that thing. And it accomplishes it by rewiring your nervous system by tapping on different points, right? Because remember how I said that emotions are partly biological, they're partly neurological, right? And so what you're doing is rewiring the nerves physically to not release those emotions around that event, right? So you'll probably get faster results if you're tapping in terms of like a fear of spiders, but it doesn't actually change your fundamental worldview, your beliefs about what spiders are or how they fit into the ecosystem or anything like that, right? That fear is still there on a belief level. You just no longer experience that fear with the outpouring of negative emotions. So that also leads to the discussion of psychiatry and pills and all of these things. Those also work on an emotional level. What they do is they stunt your emotions and they think that that solves the problem. So if you're on psychiatric medication, you're likely zombified and you don't feel any emotions because they're being suppressed, but you're still not able to actually live a fulfilled and empowered life because it's not dealing with the underlying issue, which is that belief level. So if, scientifically speaking, the biological, the emotional, the chemical level was the fundamental level of who we are, then by giving someone a pill, it would change their beliefs, right? If you change their emotion, it would change their beliefs. And that's actually not how it works, right? The reality is that when you change the belief around something, it changes the emotion around something, right? That's that more fundamental layer. So if you think of a spider, right? You believe that spiders are scary, right? So what I would do is go in and change that so spiders are not scary, right? And then immediately, instantaneously, the emotion goes away, the thoughts go away, and spiders don't bother you anymore. And I've proven this over and over and over again with my clients. Everything goes down to a belief or trauma level. Okay. In my clients, they have experienced the exact same things that you would expect in any modality that helps people, right? Lowering heart rate, lowering stress, improved sleep, getting off of some of that medication, being able to think more clearly, being able to focus better, study better, work better, feel better, you name it. All of that comes from changing the underlying beliefs and removing the trauma, right? This is like really life-changing stuff. And if beliefs were not the fundamental level, the work that I do would be impossible, right? It would be impossible for me to change your emotions by changing your beliefs. But the reality is that the reaction of the emotions getting shut off is so immediate when I change a belief or when I remove a trauma. The only sane conclusion is that beliefs are a more fundamental level. And as I change those, the emotion is immediately cut off. Like it happens every single time. The emotion is a result of underlying beliefs. Okay. So I'll say that again. The emotion is a result of underlying beliefs. If you affect the emotional layer with tapping or with pills or with exposure therapy or any other modality that you can think of that operates on a biological, a neurological, or a feeling level, it is not fundamentally going down to the belief level. And that's where I operate. And that's why I can do what I can do in a couple minutes that nobody else can figure out how to do except through hypnotherapy or rewiring physically or all this different stuff, because I have the correct model of the mind. I know how it works and I know how to fix it. Okay. So that's the difference between the emotional and the belief level. Right. And then the final test of this, for anyone who's scientifically inclined, is that when I shift beliefs, their fundamental worldview has changed. Literally, like instantly. Like their entire reality rewrites itself. And that's not something that happens on an emotional level. Even with tapping. Tapping is the most powerful tool I've seen on the emotional level, but it doesn't rewire your worldview, right? You still have the same worldview, and yeah, you feel better and you can take actions, but your fundamental view of reality stays the same, which means that I'm doing something deeper and more profound than anyone else that's operating on the mind, right? And when I say beliefs, it's quite a bit different than what most people think of as beliefs, because I operate underneath the emotional level, whereas most people, what they think are beliefs are actually the thought level. So thank you for listening. Once again, I'm Jedediah Thomas, the Mind Master. Please follow along for more content and stay tuned. I'm going to be launching a group, the Initiates of the Mysteries of the Mind. That will be to get clear on your purpose in life, get clear on your vision, set goals, and actually start to accelerate your life in view of your purpose of being on this earth. And then you'll just have to see what's in there once you're in. All right. Have a good one. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the channel. Bye.